Ladies and gentlemen, I'll read you New York Post. Donald Trump launches official post-presidency website. This is just an hour ago. Former President Trump and former First Lady Melania Trump have launched their official website, vowing to, quote, remain a tireless champion for Americans as the ex-commander-in-chief plans his return to public life. The site, 45office.com, quote, will allow individuals to submit correspondence, scheduling requests, and press inquiries. The former first couple said in a statement Monday evening. The pair added that they are, quote, they are continually strengthened by the enduring spirit of the American people and look forward to staying in touch. In addition to providing a way to reach their office, the website also hails the former president's achievements in office and says it will, quote, strive to inform, educate, and inspire Americans from all walks of life as we seek to build a truly great American future. Quote, through this office, President Trump will remain a tireless champion for the hardworking men and women of our great country and for their right to live in safety, dignity, prosperity, and peace. The 45th Commander-in-Chief has been plotting his comeback since leaving the White House, setting up an office in his Mar-a-Lago resort, where he has reportedly been in talks to start his own social media network. Trump would need his own platform to reconnect with supporters. Well, that's okay. That's not exactly true, and I'll explain why. So this is a great article. The New York Post is fantastic. Okay, the New York Post actually engages in journalism. They're the only publication to break the story about Hunter's laptop full of incriminating emails that if Donald Trump Jr., Eric Trump, or Jared Kushner had, I mean, it would be nonstop hysteria, apoplectic fanaticism. It would be the singular focus of every wonderful journalist at the Washington Post, the New York Times, MSNBC, CNN. They would say, wait, 10% to the big man? Imagine if there was a quote. So one of the quotes in Hunter's emails, by the way, just really quickly, was that he gives 10% of his revenue or what he makes from brokering meetings or business deals or, whatever, using his family name for business. He gives 10%, allegedly, reported, it's written in his emails, to the big man, which is his father. Of course, we don't know that for sure. It's just actually written in his emails. That was reported on by the New York Post. No one would touch that with a 10-foot pole. Nobody even wanted to and the New York Post, imagine if the New York Post, their Twitter account was suspended, but imagine if Eric Trump or Donald Trump Jr. had that in their emails. We give 10% to the Orange Man. Imagine, oh my God, they're brokering deals. It's national security. Putin, they're probably trying to infiltrate our election integrity again. There's a double standard of logic and reason in our country. It's not just a double standard in terms of justice. There's a double standard in terms of how people utilize logic and reason. But anyway, hit subscribe to this channel right now. If you want to read my writing in The Hill, the Huffington Post, Salon, the Jerusalem Post, the Federalist, the Daily Caller, other publications, go to hagoodman.com. If you want to support my voice long term, my Patreon is below and in the pinned comment and on hagoodman.com. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a fantastic thing. President Trump starting his website is a fantastic thing. He doesn't need Twitter. He actually doesn't even need his own social media company. Anything that he says, it could be like through a fax machine or, Morse code, anything that President Trump says within a handwritten note will be obsessed over by the entire public relations monstrosity that props up the Democratic Party. They have nothing. There are elements of President Biden's, our beloved president's, tenure thus far as the leader of our country that are unmitigated disasters. What's taking place is a humanitarian crisis in the southern geographic region of our country because Democrats dropped the ball on that issue, on that topic. Where's AOC staring into the horizon in a photo? And we should always remember, everyone should remember that Yad Vashem in Jerusalem had to refute AOC's revisionist claims, denial claims, really essentially amounts to denial, where Yad Vashem had to say, hey, learn more about the topic. And they were very diplomatic and very kind to AOC. I wrote an article, an op-ed, in the Jerusalem Post, where she equated the detention facilities that are being they're over capacity, and the same things and worse, that people said, oh my God, look what President Trump is. The Senate report during President Obama's administration was even worse than the horrendous separation policy, which President Trump ended. He should never have implemented that. So that was a terrible, terrible, despicable policy. What was worse was what happened under President Obama that nobody talks about. The Senate report that I can't even talk about because of YouTube policies. Very likely the same types of things in that Senate report, and very likely there are humanitarian issues taking place. They're utilizing the same facilities, by the way, that AOC likened to a time period that Yad Vashem told her to look to learn more about. Okay, I can't even really discuss everything right now, but read my op-ed. It's in my website. It's on my website, HAGoodman.com. Where's the outrage? Why am I bringing this up? Number one, obviously, Democratic politicians run off of, it's like the fuel. Their fuel is emotion. What has AOC or anyone else brought up the same facilities that President Trump used that are now being overcrowded? There are more people in those facilities. So do you think life is better? Do you think that if she equated those facilities to a time period she should never talk about, what do you think the conditions are today when there are far more people? This is a catastrophe that Biden presides over, and it's only, 3 months into his presidency. Why is it good that President Trump started a website? And why is it good that I think that he's going to run again. I don't think that, for President Trump to have the drive, for anyone to have the drive and to have what it takes to become president of the United States of America, they're going to want to run again if they can. Mitt Romney's been trying to run again. Why do you think he opposes President Trump on everything? Because he thinks that he's going to save the Republican Party, because CNN or because Democrats give him a Profile and Courage Award. Okay? They would turn him into a tyrant and despot and authoritarian in the same manner. But see, what in the same manner they utilized against President Trump. What President Trump needs to do with his website is continue the same kind of more uplifting message. He doesn't need to get into social media beefs. He doesn't need Twitter. If he starts his own platform, well, hopefully he will, he needs to shy away or refrain from getting into spats or getting into back and forth feuds. There's no need for that. If he just changes his image, Democrats will have nothing. They don't really have any accomplishments. That shot in the arm everyone's getting, okay, myself included, you're getting, that happened under President Trump's administration. There's no rebuttal to that. There's no rebuttal. People, okay, not only did they say it couldn't happen, because there were articles saying it couldn't happen, but then they say, well, he botched the rollout. It's like, the rollout mostly has to do with what governors and states, that's Democratic run states have the worst outcomes, and they pontificate the most on the crisis. Andrew Cuomo was the worst governor, and Democrats propped him up. If you can just look, I can go on a million tangents. If President Trump, I think he'll run again, if he can just harness more positivity, act in a more diplomatic manner. CNN had an article, how bad was the Trump presidency? And then they didn't talk about his accomplishments. They didn't talk about any negatives. They just said poll numbers. Well, his poll numbers show this. And Democrats think that 70% think he's the worst. And 70+% think he's horrible. And Republicans, 70+% think he's either great or very good. The poll numbers are not like the media, 92% negative media coverage. The fact that he has such strong support within the Republican Party shows how good of a president he was. We had record low unemployment throughout most of President Trump's tenure. The economy was fantastic during most of President Trump's tenure. And everyone was obsessing on the left and in media over Russia and Facebook ads and whether he pressured another country to investigate Biden. These are not national security concerns. Whether or not he pressured somebody to investigate Biden is not a national security concern because President Obama's administration investigated Trump based on what intelligence agencies from other countries allegedly told our intelligence agencies. This is not national security. President Trump addressed national security issues. He negotiated a deal to bring us out of our longest-running military intervention, conflict, war in 2020, May 1st, 2021. And God bless all the Vietnam veterans. It was Vietnam Veterans Day yesterday. We should have learned the lessons of Vietnam. President Trump did. We had a withdrawal May 1st, 2021, scheduled, upcoming from Afghanistan. Biden's going to keep our country there longer, indefinitely. Okay? So you already have a crisis in the southern region of the country. You have, and what drives me is when people say, oh my goodness, how did you go from Bernie to Trump? Yeah, well, foreign policy is the most important thing. Foreign policy to me is the most important aspect of any president, of presidential power, of the Oval Office. And in terms of foreign policy, he was infinitely better than Bush and infinitely better than President Obama. There's no comparison. President Obama turned Libya into a failed state with a failed NATO intervention. Nothing Trump did even comes close. The pandemic response, if you want to blame him for the pandemic response, then what do you do with Andrew Cuomo and Whitmer and Phil Murphy and Democratic governors who ran their states into the ground? It's like, look at the aggregate numbers from the New York Times. They had the worst outcomes, yet they pontificate the most. And Cuomo even wrote a book on leadership lessons from the pandemic. That should tell you the psyche, the mentality of the average, wonderful, apoplectic, morally superior liberal Democrat. They're wonderful people. They can never look into the mirror and say, oh, well, maybe Andrew Cuomo shouldn't have written a book on leadership lessons as he was putting infected people into elderly care facilities, directly leading to 15,000 lives lost, by one estimate. Anyway, President Trump's starting his website, I think it's a good thing, very good thing. I do think, though, that he should utilize it to build a base, to build a new image. He needs to rebrand himself. I know that some of my viewers are going to say, what do you mean rebrand himself? You don't know what you're talking about. You're not a billionaire. You weren't president. Somebody out there might say, well, why don't you become president first before you tell him what to do? I understand he became president. That's fantastic. And yes, that's my point. He has what it takes to become president. I think that President Trump has what it takes to become president again. Let's see. If you look, that's right, Grover Cleveland, the only president we've had with non-consecutive terms. So President Trump could be another Grover Cleveland. I think that he can do so. I think what he needs to do is just rebrand himself as a kinder, gentler President Trump. There's no stopping him after that. Notice how, like, we're not in a depression. Like, just miraculously, months after President Trump leaves, life is slowly getting back to normal. There's no lasting damage to this country other than the minds of millions of Democrats who've been literally traumatized and warped by Trump's personality. That's it. Facebook ads they were obsessed over Facebook ads for years and years as the economy was doing well. Like, the pandemic was not his fault. If governors tanked their economies, look at the unemployment rates. The 13 of the top 14 highest unemployment rates are Democratic-run states. Not Trump's fault. If he could really communicate, hey, look, I achieved great things. First president to step foot in North Korea. Renegotiated NAFTA into the USMCA. Negotiated a deal to bring our Americans out of a 20-year conflict. These are great things. If he can do that, there's no stopping him. Give me your thoughts.